We are back with another spicy review, but even more importantly, M. Night Shyamalan is back with Knock at the Cabin, which is about a girl who is vacationing with her parents who are taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that the family make a choice to avoid the apocalypse. So, Mike.
Yeah.
It's great having M. Night back once again in the saddle. And I don't know about you, but man, it really felt like M. Night Shyamalan was in many ways at his best here, better than he has been for some years. The last film that he made that I was like completely in love with was probably, well, Glass is great. I liked Split a lot. Split was a film that really intrigued me as far as kind of the concept of that film. So he was kind of returning to a lot of what made, him kind of great with his earlier films that, took pretty simple concepts, small casts and settings to tell an intriguing story. So it really felt like it was a lot of return to form for him for that. So, but yeah, what did you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like a older style M. Night Shyamalan film, more intimate setting, a lot of character drama and a lot of dialogue, not a lot of big set pieces. They pretty much are inside a cabin for 90% of the movie. You only ever see like occasional flashbacks to external scenes, and typically they're like inside of a building or just outside of a building. There's just not a lot of huge set pieces here, which I think is cool, but the concept that in the background of all of this, the apocalypse is potentially happening, or at least that's what these people are saying, is really cool. As with any film, you're expecting M. Night Shyamalan to do a twist, and I've kind of been waiting for him to finally do a twist like he did in this movie, which I don't want to spoil it for anybody because I think it's worth seeing how it plays out, but I like that it's a twist. But it's actual, like, this is how you actually subvert expectations when you do twists. Instead of, like, being like, hey, by the way, I'm subverting expectations for everyone, So, yeah, I think he did a good job with that. I like the characters. I was surprised by some of the, like, biblical overtones in this movie. And I also was surprised at some of the subtlety in how they deal with internet culture, because it actually felt, like, realistic. At one point in time, like, while the mystery's playing out, there's this idea that maybe these people are like a bunch of crazies that met on the internet and are like just playing out this weird fantasy that they have in their heads, and you're like, maybe it could be that, but I don't know. And they actually do a good job of dealing with it and actually making it seem like, what, those people are not villains just because you assume that they're villains. Like they're like, they actually really humanize it. Dave Bautista, for all his craziness on Twitter, he actually kills it in this movie. He did a good job.
Yeah, Dave Bautista, man, he continues to kind of prove that he's a pretty solid actor, and he's been doing really good with his performances over the past few years. So, and he's really trying to set himself apart as kind of like an actual, like, legitimate, serious actor, which is kind of cool. So, especially after his role as Drax and some of that type of stuff. So, I mean, one of the things that was the most fun about this film was that it really kind of plays you along as the audience to kind of keep you guessing about, are these people just like crazy lunatics that are, living out some sort of weird power fantasy type thing, or are they actual, like, legitimate, like, messengers of the apocalypse and stuff? And man, this film did a really good job with you continuing, like, every time you think you have it figured out that, okay, this is actually what's happening, then there's another curveball that comes along that gets you kind of like, oh, well, maybe this is actually what's happening, So it did a good job with that.
Yep. Critiques specifically, I think that in the very beginning, the dialogue feels very wooden, and it feels a little like the acting even feels a little wooden. And I think part of it is because they're trying to, I don't know, convey the unease of the because like the camera angles are like slightly tilted, so everything's kind of off.
In your face, and
it's weird at first, but then the movie kind of hits its stride, and then you kind of get going with it, and you're like, okay, this actually works. We also don't spend a lot of time with some of the secondary characters, so we don't know a whole lot about them, and so some of the impact of their acting is kind of lost until later in the film.
Yeah.
When things start to make a little bit more sense and start to kind of play out. I will also say I was surprised because the two main characters in this, well, the main character is a young girl, a young Asian girl, who was adopted by two men. So the two main characters are like a gay couple, which I didn't realize that was going to be a thing at first. I didn't know in the marketing that was what was happening.
Yeah.
But I will say, not like, with the exception of one of the characters kind of going, "Hey, are you guys attacking me because I'm gay?" And the other character was like, "No." And like they kind of just move on. Like there really is no virtue signaling in this movie about these two guys, anything like that. They don't shove it in your face. They're not spending an hour of your time from an established IP telling you that they're a gay couple and how sweet and wonderful it is and that the apocalypse is happening, but gay love exists. They just kind of are like, hey, whatever. They're two dudes and they kind of move on with it. And it really has no bearing on the story whatsoever. And in fact, at the end, there's kind of a weird kind of like take on that relationship that I was like kind of surprised that they do. But yeah, I mean, other than that little bit there, I mean, they actually did a good job of writing well-rounded characters that don't need to talk about their sexuality constantly to make the movie work, you know? So
absolutely.
I was impressed by that part of it too. So
yeah, I mean, it never felt like it was forced or out of place, and they did a pretty good job with that. So I mean, overall, I had a pretty good time with the film. I would say one of the other things that I really liked about this film was the sound design. The sound editing for the film was phenomenal. Like it was really, really awesome to hear just how the sound was almost like harsh and crisp and just kind of like on this whole other level of kind of it was almost like uncomfortable, but it was well done in that way with how the sound design was, and it was good. So I would say overall, I would say this film is worth watching in theaters just because of just how intriguing it is and the sound design and some of that type of stuff. So what about you, Mike?
Yeah, I feel the same way. And like with the sound design too, I will say one of the things that's really cool in the movie is like there's music at the very beginning when the opening credits happen. There's no music for probably a good like 5 to 10 minutes. And I didn't notice it until I started getting uncomfortable. And I was like, man, if there was some music right now, that would make this work. Like, it would make me a lot less uncomfortable. But, yeah, I think it's definitely worth seeing in theaters. If, you know, I wouldn't say this is like a go rush and drop everything you have to go see it right now. But I would say it's worth seeing in theaters because of that. Also, there are some cool things that happen in the film that I think are worth seeing in theaters. So, yeah, if you got time, if you want to go see something, this is definitely, I think, worth going and seeing.
Absolutely. Yeah, so with that being said, if you have seen Knock at the Cabin, let us know in the comments below what you think about the film. Make sure you also go check out our website at geeksandgamers.com, and make sure that you become a member over there. We have a lot of really awesome stuff for members over there. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this review from Mike and I. We'll be back with another review very soon. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Deuces.